Hello and welcome to this video about one interesting example for understanding the idea of conditional probability. We hope that this video is useful for you for understanding how to resolve and how to deal with problems including conditional probability. So this is a very basic example. Imagine that we are working in a car lot and we have some values, some relative frequencies about two interesting features of the cars, having Bluetooth and also having an integrated GPS system. We know that among our cars, 70% have Bluetooth and 40% have an integrated GPS system, and 20% of cars have both. Be careful with this writing. Having both means joint probability of accomplishing both features. That means intersection. The question that we need to answer is, what's the probability that a car has GPS if we know that it has Bluetooth? Recall this writing. What's the probability that a car has GPS over the set of cars that we know that have Bluetooth? We are referring to Bluetooth as BT, and we are referring to GPS or the integrated GPS system as the letters GPS. Remember that when solving problems about probabilities, you will need to define the events that you are going to combine, and usually these events are identified using capital letters, as we are doing here. You don't need to use always A, B, C. You can define your own letters if this is meaningful for you. So, if we want to compute the probability that a car has GPS, given that we know that it has Bluetooth, what's happening before is having Bluetooth. And this is why Bluetooth is included in the second place in our writing. So, it's the probability of having GPS given that the car has Bluetooth. GPS comes in the first place given that it has Bluetooth. So, what we are going to do is to show two different resolutions, two different methods to solve this type of problems. On one hand, we could build a cross table that combines this information that we were given in the problem. So, remember, this was the writing. This is the description that we obtained for the problem. And here you can see how we can build this table. We know that 70% of cars, they have Bluetooth. So you can see that we wrote Bluetooth in rows of this cross table, and we included GPS or no GPS in columns. You may see that at the bottom of the table, in the last cell, we have 1.0. This 1.0 needs to be included always in our tables. And what we are doing here is to translate the information that we were given into different positions of the cells of the table. So we know that 70% have Bluetooth, and that means that the marginal probability of having Bluetooth, and that's at the end of first row, as you can see here, this is 70%. And also 40% is at the bottom of the table in the column GPS, as you can see here, the 0.4. Here you can see that 40% have Bluetooth. So what you see here, and that's a good place to understand why we recall two simple probabilities as marginal probabilities, is that when we refer to simple probabilities of isolated events, we included these probabilities in the margins of the table. And this is why we say that the probability of having GPS is 40%, and that's a marginal probability, because this number is written in the margins of this table. And also, within each cell of this table, we write the joint probability of both events. So you can see here, 20% have both, and that means that we will write 0.4 in the cell that's included between having Bluetooth and having GPS. The 0.2 is placed there because there are 20% of cars that accomplish both. But what's more interesting in this table is that we can obtain the remaining information that was not given in the description of the problem. You can see here, if we needed to write 1.0 at the bottom of the table, and there is a 0.7 in the margin of Bluetooth, we need to have 0.3, 1 minus 0.7 for the event no Bluetooth. And also, if there is 0.4 in the margin of GPS, and we know there is 0.2 in the joint intersection between GPS and Bluetooth, we need to have another 0.2 here. So we are obtaining the margins of the table. This 0.6 is the difference between 1 minus and then 0.4. And also, as refers to the remaining joint probabilities, these numbers are the difference between the joint probability in the other cells when we compare these values to the marginal probabilities. So for instance, this 0.5 comes from 0.7 minus 0.2, or this 0.2 comes from 0.4 minus 0.2. And easily we can obtain a lot of information that was not provided in the description of the problem. That's very useful. So what we see here is that we can obtain the probability of GPS given that the car has Bluetooth, and this is a formula we already learned. In the numerator, we have the joint probability of GPS and Bluetooth, and in the denominator, we have the probability of the event that's happening before. So in the end, we can easily substitute in this formula as 0.2 over 0.7. In other words, what we are considering here is that among all cars that have Bluetooth, and we are referring to this row, among those cars that have Bluetooth, 0.2 over 0.7 have GPS and Bluetooth. So applying the formula and checking in the cross table, we can obtain the value of probability of GPS given Bluetooth. Also, we can work with this table in a different way, and we can see how we obtain the information from the first row as we described before. And there is another approach that can be interesting for you, which is building a tree with the information that's given in the problem, and that will depend on which type of information is given. You can build a table like this, like 0.7 of cars, 70% have Bluetooth, so no Bluetooth should be 0.3. And this is the first branch of these cars, of this tree, sorry. So once we have found the main branches of the tree, you are able to compute the conditional probabilities. And how you do it? So for each of them, you create a second level of branches. You define having GPS or no, having GPS or no. So there are 4 possible cases, like Bluetooth and GPS, Bluetooth, no GPS, no Bluetooth, yes GPS, no Bluetooth, no GPS. And the information that's provided for each of these branches will depend on the type of data that's shown in the description. So we know that's 0.7 for Bluetooth and 0.2 for both. So this square, this rectangle in blue at the top of my slide, here where I am pointing, this information that's given in the problem. So this is 0.2 over 0.7 for the conditional probability as we just computed. So what's interesting here is that the branch that it's the complement of this event can be easily computed as 1 minus the previous conditional probability. So what does it mean? It means that the conditional probability of not GPS, given that the car has Bluetooth, and that's the rectangle in purple, as you can see here, the rectangle in purple, should be 0.5 over 0.7. Why? Because it's 1 minus 0.2 over 0.7. It's clear. So if you are able to, here we are adapting the problem to this tree, but you will see many other problems where placing the information is easier. If you are given information such as the conditional probability of first branch, you can easily compute the complement of this probability as 1 minus the probability that was shown in the first branch. And the same for the second branch. If you are able to compute that in this branch the conditional probability of having GPS, given that the car has no Bluetooth, I am here in this third branch of the tree. If we know that this is 0,2 over 0,3, and this usually will be a data for you, you know that the complement of this branch, which is the other, can be easily computed as 1 minus 0,1 over 0,3. And this is why we build a tree. And there is any approach which works better for all problems. You will have to choose the one that fits better into the information that you are given. But it's very interesting that you study both approaches, because if you succeed in choosing the approach that fits better with a problem, you can easily solve a problem that seemed to be difficult. So with this, I finished this example about independent events. There will be other examples that you can practice, and I highly recommend you that you practice with the exercises that are available in the polyformat. So thank you for your attention, and I hope to see you in next video.